Well, there you have it. The government cancelling that electricity state of disaster. I'm joined now by Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Good afternoon. Let's talk to you about the state of the nation, the state of disaster for electricity that is no longer in place. Doc, what do you make of this move? Because it was only for 2 months. We've listened to the ministers explaining that they don't no longer need it. But what has changed so dramatically? What, in your view, could have prompted them to say, no, let's drop this?
But then my reading of the situation is that there seems to be a missing link between the argument that is put forward by government and the latest developments. Precisely because my understanding is that the Minister of Electricity was appointed against the background of the national state of a disaster. So to do away with it all of a sudden, it doesn't make sense unless government is admitting that it is at fault or it made a mistake by introducing it. And also this is happening in the light of the application that is still pending that was instituted by a civil society organization, I think, to try to withdraw it.
Okay. So they also say there'll be no implications on the current situation going forward, and they don't need a state of disaster to access, from a procurement perspective, if there's an emergency through the existing PFMA, they may, do so. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, shouldn't they just stand back and say we made a mistake with the state of disaster?
No, I think, I think that they should, because one of the reasons that was put forward, or the rationale behind this, was that government was going to be exempted from the procurement processes, which takes a very long time sometimes. But now we are told that, government can get the job done without the national state of a disaster, which begs the question as to why was it introduced in the first place. But what I heard from the minister, which was putting a great deal of emphasis on, was basically, the emphasis on renewable energy, that municipalities now can procure power by themselves.
So that should alleviate the load shedding. But they knew that 2 months ago. And I just wonder, what does this say? If you're an investor, a potential investor in the renewable energy sector in South Africa, and you are watching these government moves, that you're not getting a clear picture, how best are they handling, besides appointing Hossein Soramokgopa as a Minister of Electricity, because that's what he has to do. That's his daily bread. It's the energy crisis. You might be questioning about whether or not you should be investing here.
Yes, of course. I mean, there's been a slow pace of economic growth. Our economy has not been growing the way it should have. And I think that has not improved, even though the newly appointed minister has been brought to the fore. And I don't think that we are going to see a change for the better. Instead, I think we're going to see a change for the worse, because government is not articulating a coherent message, a message that is pitched to the audience, the investors. But I think there seems to be an agenda by the government of the day to, gravitate towards privatization, but using different terms like, renewable energy. I understand the argument that Eskom cannot be the only institution that is providing power. But the question is, what is the meaning of that? It means that you are going to privatize, because now we are told that power can be bought at local government level by municipalities. And that again begs a question, in my opinion, about whether poor people will be able to access power under the current circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, the minister is saying they've cancelled this, they've scrapped this state of disaster after consultations with Eskom. But we're heading to winter. I mean, in this country, we know that demand for power really, really goes up during the cold months. And I'm just wondering from an energy perspective as well, I mean, if you look at it, what this will do to the political climate in the country if we go back to stage 6 load shedding in winter.
I think this issue of power outage is a nail in the coffin for the ruling party. And I think the damage is done, and what is done cannot be undone. And it's something that is going to be used by opposition parties to take a swipe at, at the government of the day for falling short in terms of getting the job done, in terms of providing power. I don't think that the ruling party will recover from this, from a political point of view.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the president is going to say one of these days about this, because he was so confident, Ntsikelelo, when he announced the state of disaster 2 months ago in Parliament and announcing the new Minister of Electricity. But thank you for your time and analysis. We'll have to wait and see how this matter develops going forward. That's Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, a political analyst, weighing in here with us this afternoon on the ongoing reaction to the decision by government that was announced earlier today to scrap the national state of disaster in the energy sector to deal with the energy crisis. We're still not clear about the exact reasons, because they say no, they've realized after 2 months they don't need it. But when you look at the past 2 months, what has changed dramatically? We're sitting here this afternoon still with stage 4 blackouts. So what has really changed?